I'm delighted to be here today with author Penny Legg. Penny's written quite a few books now, and she's written for a fantastic book on crime for Sabrestorm. And welcome, Penny.
Well, thank you very much. It's nice to be here.
What made you become an author? How did that happen?
Well, I was always the person who people went to write newsletters and press releases and whatnot. And I've been writing since I was, knee-high to a grasshopper when I was writing dreadful plays for my junior school. Fast forward, as I say, people asked me to write various things, and then I started writing professionally, and magazine, newspaper articles and things like that. And so one day I was asked to come to a meeting, and I was headhunted, believe it or not. A lady opposite me, she leant across the table and she said, "I want to talk to you later at the end of the meeting." I thought, "Oh, crumbs." And she was from a publisher, and she offered me my first publishing contract, which was super. So that was it.
Fantastic. And dare I ask, what was your first book?
Oh, it was a book of folklore of Hampshire for the History Press, and very popular it's proved, which is rather nice. So. Yes, people ask me to come and give talks about folklore now, and then they go off around Hampshire in a minibus with the group, go off and see some of the things that I talk about, so that's quite fun.
So that was for the History Press. I mean, have your books always had a sort of history side to them?
Yes, I suppose really I'm a bit of a history geek. My kudos has just gone through the floor. I like history. I don't think you can understand where we are now and perhaps where we will be soon if you don't understand the past and how we got to where we are now. So, and there's just so much to find out and write about. So, yeah, the more I write, I shall always carry on with history. I think there'll always be an element.
So you've always had an interest in history?
Yes, I mean, I can remember vividly being about 8 years old doing a project on cavemen at school, and I was just hooked. It was just, it was wonderful. And then we did the Celts and whatnot, and we had to build a village, which was rather fun. And then, you just work your way through mostly British history. And recently I've become quite interested. I've done quite a lot on local history, but I'm more interested in Second World War history really now. The crime book for Sabrestorm was really interesting to research. It took me places I didn't think it would take me, and there's so much more to write about. There could be, sort of 3 or 4 sequels, but because there's just so much to say. But the book I've just finished for Sabrestorm was just an amazing experience. It's amazing how much crime there was in the Second World War. It really was quite an eye-opener.
And so how long did it take you to write?
Too long. I suppose in all it was about 4 years, but I did take quite a big gap off in the middle. I was very grateful to Sabrestorm for being so patient. Both my parents died one after the other, and it was just a lot to sort out, and then to get back into the groove of writing took me a while.
Sure. And were there what surprised you most about crime during the Second World War?
What surprised me most about crime in the Second World War? The amount. It was amazing. The crime rate went up by 57%. I mean, in a time when we were all supposed to be pulling together for the greater good, the greater struggle. A significant number of the population were, quietly lining their pockets, bumping off people that they had enough of, or generally using crime to get by. And that's a sad fact, I'm afraid, that the black market for some people was a necessity.
Do you see any parallels with today with the obviously we're going a fair amount of economic hardship, and the crime rate apparently has gone up. So I suppose there could be some parallels, but
yes, I think there's. I mean, I don't know the statistics, but of crime nowadays. But I think historically, if you are in a period of want, and there are a lot of people who don't have enough money. The rise of food banks and things like that is a testament to that. Human nature is such that if you haven't got something and you want it, then you go and find a way of getting it. And if that leads you to crime, then so be it, if you want it enough. So,
Sure.
yeah, it's tough times.
No. And so, what are you working on now? Anything? Or?
Well, I'm trying to work on a book, another book for Sabrestorm, about evacuees. It's slow going because I'm being sidetracked a lot. I have gone back to university. At the grand old age of I am the oldest student in my class by a fair few years. I'm doing a master's in publishing at Kingston University, and I have to say it's great fun. If anybody listening to this is thinking about doing a master's in publishing, Kingston's a brilliant place to go to. It's so central for London and whatnot. It's just lovely. Anyway, I'm growing bags under my eyes, as you may have gathered, but it's challenging, it's interesting, it's taking me places that I would never thought I would do. It will probably enhance the writing once I get back to it, but also it gives me an insight into the other side of the coin, the publishing side of the coin, which is hugely interesting. So yeah, I'm becoming not just a history geek but a publishing geek too. So
I guess your experience as an author must help you out a fair bit.
Yeah, it is quite useful because you can see both sides. You can see what you're talking about and what you're learning about as to become a publisher, but you can see it from the point of view of the author. It's tying up things. I've always seen things from my point of view as an author. I have to, I'm commissioned to write a book. I go away, I write it. There's a little bit of interaction between the author and the publisher, but basically the publisher's sitting around waiting for the book. And now I know much more about what's happening in that period. Sometimes there are things happening and sometimes they're not. And then what happens afterwards, which I had a vague idea about, but now I understand much more. I look forward to publishing some books myself. That'll be fun.
Excellent. And do you have much contact with other authors as well?
What at Kingston? You mean?
Well, just generally, because I.
Oh well, I know loads of people. I mean, I'm a member of the Society of Authors anyway, and the NUJ, the National Union of Journalists, and the Crime Writers Association. That's good. The crime book allowed me to enter that. And I'm linked in with people and Twitter and whatnot, and I've got lots of friends who are authors, so that's quite useful. And I've just joined the Society of Young Publishers, so I'll probably meet more authors through that.
I mean, because writing's not an easy profession anyway, is it?
No. When I was at school, I was told writing's not a proper job. Would I like to be a management trainee at a large chain of department stores? And I said no, thank you very much. And I didn't get into writing until I was much older, which is a shame. I think I would have had a lot of fun as a journalist or, an author in my earlier years. But
so what advice have you got to aspiring authors?
Keep going. Don't give up. If anybody says to you that it's not a proper job, just ignore them. Just keep writing. Don't write and edit at the same time. Just keep writing. Write to the end and then go back and start looking at what you've written. Do not write a bit, edit a bit, write a bit, edit it, because you'll never finish it.
No, your readers, they've read your book or books, because how many have you published now?
12.
12?
Yes.
Can you list them all?
Can I list them all?
Yes.
Would you like me to list
them
all?
Go on.
Okay. I'm not sure if these are in order. Folklore of Hampshire, Southampton Then and Now, Haunted Southampton, too many about Southampton. Winchester History You Can See, that's an interesting one. I think that's my favourite out of all of them. I do a lot of photography and that one's got some really nice pictures in it. And I'm not just saying that because I took them, but I had the opportunity to take the pictures when the weather was really nice and it's just right time, right place, everything was right. Let's have a think. Wordful, Then there was Under the Queen's Colours, which is a military history. Military Wives from the First World War through to Afghanistan, another military history. And Bloody British History Southampton, a 1950s Southampton childhood. That's enough Southampton books. And was there another one in between? No, I think the next one was Crime in the Second World War. Spivs, Scoundrels, Rogues and Worse. For Sabrestorm.
I'm slightly disappointed that that wasn't down as your favourite book.
Ah, okay. I said that Winchester was my favourite book because the pictures in it, I took the pictures
Right.
and I was able to take them at a particular time. Of all the books, I think my overall favourite is Crime, and I'm not just saying that because you just picked me up on it. If you look at Sabrestorm's book, it's beautiful, and I'm not just saying that, it's an absolute work of art. Ian said to me that he was thinking about putting gold leaf on the front. Well, I've never had gold leaf on any of the front of my book, so I was quite excited. And then he sent me a PDF of the front cover, which didn't pick up the gold leaf. You couldn't see it. So there was this sort of, dull yellow across it, and I thought, well, that's nice. Thanks, Ian, oh well. And then he sent it to me, and I received the first book all wrapped up in tissue paper. It was beautifully presented, and I wasn't expecting it the day it arrived, and so I opened it, and there was this absolutely exquisite book. And I'm not just saying that because the publisher's sitting next door to me, but I did actually think so much of it that I videoed myself opening it. So if you look on my YouTube or Facebook channels, you'll find it. But it's a book that has had so much time and effort spent on it that without a doubt it's my favourite book, purely because the publisher valued it as much as I did, and that's really nice, so thank you.
Pleasure. Good. Outside of the realms of publishing and writing, so do you have other hobbies as well?
Other hobbies? Well, I'm trying to learn the ukulele. Right. No, I'm not going to play now. We've recently...
That could be the next video.
We recently moved house, and this is the first area, much as I love living here, this is the first area I've been to where we haven't automatically made friends, we haven't, bumped into people, and, it's been quite hard. So I looked around for a group I could join, or something that, my husband and I could do together, and we could go out and meet people. And so the Cowplain ukulele players, we've been playing with them for a little while, and last year, Waterlooville is where I live, and they have a music festival each year, and we were actually asked to play at the Waterlooville Music Festival last year, which was great. I think we were one of the opening acts, and that was really nice because the Crime book had just come out, and I had been asked to go on BBC Radio Solent to talk to Katie Martin about the book and review some of the week's news. That was fun. And I just happened to mention that day was the opening of the Waterlooville Music Festival, and Katie said, well, in that case, and I mentioned the ukulele players, so she said, bring the ukulele players along. So yes, we all piled into her little tiny studio, and we all crammed round 2 microphones, which I believe, it's amazing what you can do when you have to do. And we didn't sound wonderful, but we weren't bad, so that was good. And we just played one song on BBC. So yes, played ukulele on BBC Radio. How about that?
Fantastic. An accomplished musician as well.
Accomplished in inverted commas, yes.
And I'm sure people will be itching to know where can is there a website where they can find out, see or watch you on YouTube playing the ukulele?
No.
Oh. The disappointment.
Oh, shame. No. I don't know. To my knowledge, no. I've got some odd video, but I'm not putting it up.
Not putting it on YouTube.
Odd is the word. I also like. I love to dance, but I have a husband who's got several left feet, shall we say, so I don't do that so much. In my youth, I did old time ballroom and Latin American. I used to do competitions and medals and things like that. And I, occasionally get to dance, and then when I do, that's lovely. And I haven't disgraced myself yet, but I'd better touch wood.
Coming back to the crime book, perhaps we could find out a little bit more, just in case people don't know. What's the breadth that it covers?
Oh well, basically Homefront, British Homefront, World War II crime. It looks at things like the black market, why we had the black market, rationing and whatnot. What it was that was available on the black market, where people got things from, the ingenuity of people, everything from, airmen siphoning off, fuel and whatnot and selling it locally, through to, your spiv with the, here, want to watch missus, that kind of thing. And then things like blackout crime. Blackout was a perfect time, wasn't it? If you wanted to get into somebody's house or do something, that you shouldn't be doing, what better time than everything is completely blacked out, you can chin up a drain pipe and get into a house and nobody would notice. It's great. You had the rise of gangs, a lot of the criminal gangs in London, for example, started life in the Second World War. They got better and better at what they did, and more creative, I suppose, in what they did. And then, of course, murder. The murder rate went up by, 22% in the war. And that surprised me until I started looking at the kinds of crimes that there were. So you had people who had just had enough of their wives, basically. They nagged them to death almost. And, they decided that an air raid, next door, lots of, shells of bombed out buildings and whatnot, perfect place to hide dead bodies, 9 times out of 10, I would imagine, people got away with hiding dead bodies in there. It would just be another victim of a bombing raid. You also had the serial killers, Haig and Christie, their household names. Haig, the acid bath murderer, he started his crime spree during the Second World War, dissolving bodies in acid. And then, of course, you've got Reginald Christie. 10 Rillington Place is an address that most people have heard of, if not, they might not know all the crimes that went on there, but, he was a monster. And then, of course, you had Cummings, Gordon Cummings, the Blackout Ripper, who was a perfectly respectable, so we understand, gentleman until he just snapped. February 1942, and the bodies kept coming. What was it? The head of the fingerprint department of the time, Frederick Sherrill, he's quoted as saying that it was an orgy of crime. It was just awful. Every day was a new body and, new victims and what were coming through. So, there was a lot of crime to talk about. Sure. A lot of things were happening. And then, of course, you've got, white-collar crime. People who were law-abiding citizens for most of the time, but were strayed off the straight and narrow. Insurance crime, insurance fraud comes to mind, because if your house was damaged or demolished by a bomb, then you could claim from the government. You could claim an interim payment, and there were payments for if you've lost furniture or clothing and stuff like that on top. So for a house, for example, it was £500. Well, that is something like £24,000 now, and that was an interim payment until after the war when they caught up. So you can see it was an incentive before computerisation, to keep filling your forms out and sending them in and be paid multiple times for the same property. So lots of things going on.
Oh, I'm glad you went on to the white collar crime, because it was beginning to get a little bit heavy. But the book is quite a light book to read, though. It's not kind of a heavy duty textbooky kind of.
Oh crumbs, no! I deliberately didn't want a book that you need a degree to read. No, this is, and it's not all about murder. I know I mentioned several murders, but it's the majority of the book is about other crime, frankly, but there's lots of illustrations. There's I said before that the book is beautifully put together. I think one of the nicest things is the maps that are underneath the text. So you know, the text is actually placed on the maps, and you can actually look at different places and whatnot underneath, which is really nice. But no, I mean, it covers all kinds of different things, and it's designed to be dipped into and dipped out of. You don't have to sit and read a whole chunk of it all at once. You know, you can read little bits and whatnot. But it's an interesting time.
And lots of illustrations.
Yes, lots. Yes. Colour and black and white, which is lovely. So yeah, it's a nice book. So yes, please read it. I hope you enjoy it.
Brilliant. Penny, you also give talks, I think, around the country actually,
yes, I do,
on
yes.
all sorts of subjects, including crime.
Yes, yes, that's something that's quite good fun. I go, yeah, as Ian says, I go around the country. This last year, 2017, I was, oh crumbs, I was in Shropshire, I was in Dorset, London. I mean, all over, and people are interested in crime. I think it's part of human nature, really, and the fact that, you know, stereotypically we think that we're all pulling together for the greater good in the Second World War. It's quite an eye opener to find that that we weren't. You know, there's a lot of people who were very interested in their own, you know, their own gain, and I give talks to Women's Institute, to historical societies, to, you know, all kinds of people, groups of people, and yeah, I've recently, I was on the History Channel a little while ago talking about one of the crimes in the book, and was just at Carnival Cruises. They've invited me to speak on some of their ships, which is nice, the Cunard ships, and yeah, I'm you know, really quite, I enjoy the interaction with an audience. My talks are always interactive. It's not just me talking to an audience. There's always some kind of interaction with them, and it's just lovely to meet people who are interested in things that I'm interested in. So that's nice. And
if somebody is keen to hear you speak, where can they find out where you're speaking?
My website, www.pennylegg.com, nice and easy, leg with 2 G's, and yeah, there's a diary page and an events page on there, so you can come and you can see where I am and come along and join me, which would be lovely.
And of course the Sabrestorm website.
Yes, because you have a very good events page, which is fairly new to Sabrestorm's site, which is lovely. And yes, you very kindly put my events on there. So if you are not sure, then come to sabrestorm.com and go to the events page, and you can find, well, all of your events there, because, you know, you buzz about the country as well, don't you, with Sabrestorm, which is,
and we've got nice. You know, a number of authors giving talks on all sorts of subjects.
Yes, yes, which is nice. I think that's something that is really nice about Sabrestorm. It's a small publisher, but you have a sort of family feel with your authors, and I really like that. You know, the feel as though, you know, you're in a family situation. It's nice.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you very much for
You're very welcome.
Spending the time talking to us today.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.